Thanks for downloading the School of Morton podcast. I'm Scotty Campbell with WWE Hall of Fame inductee Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express. And before we get started with today's episode, let's take 1 minute from last week's episode and let you hear directly from the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan.
We were an illusion. These guys I was 5'8" at tops, but I was 250. And what I did was I would go to the ring first in a whirlwind, and as Blackjack came down, he was 6'9". I would jump him, beat him up, and then throw him in the ring. And when I came in the ring, I was standing up above him. And as you're looking at someone in the ring, they're up 4 feet anyway. So the size difference was he was laying down and I was up, so I looked like King Kong. And I did that to every one of them to take my liability away. And then when I did work with them, the comeback was easy because they would throw me to the floor, or I'd throw them to the floor. I'd be beating the crap out of them. And then they would nail me, throw me back in. And I would always I wouldn't beg off, but I would come from my back to my knees and wouldn't get any further. So when Mulligan or the Giant stepped over the ropes, the difference in size was another 3 feet and the people would pop. But, I mean, I learned that psychology from Ken Lucas like you did.
The full interview with former WCW booker, the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, is in the archives at School of Morton on iTunes. Also, rickymorton.podbean.com. Also available on TuneIn, Stitcher, and all usual platforms for podcasts. Check it out. Download, subscribe. Please tell your friends if you're enjoying the show. Welcome to the School of Morton podcast. I'm Scotty Campbell with WWE Hall of Famer Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express checking in once again. Hello, Ricky.
Hello, Scotty. You woke me up early again this morning. You know, you're the only person I know that has to go out and wake the roosters up. Man.
Got to get started early, you know.
Well, I'm telling you.
Make hay while the sun shines, and you got to get ready before the sun shines.
And we talk about Ricky Morton all the time. What about Scotty Campbell? You know, everybody knows that we're talking here. Scotty hosts his own radio talk show every morning in the Tri-Cities area. Where else does he go, Scotty? Tell us all about it.
So I host the morning show on Super Talk 92.9. We talk about local, state, and national issues weekday morning, 6 a.m. until 9. So no roosters are making any noise in the mountains at that point, but at the beginning of that. But I've got to get up early and get started. Thank you.
Yeah, great show, man. If you're out there, guys, make sure you check Scotty out every morning, 92.9.
And if you ever wonder to yourself, well, how did Scotty Campbell get involved with professional wrestling and Ricky Morton in this podcast? Well, it goes back to the movie place in Mountain City, Tennessee in the late 1980s and VHS tapes because I didn't have any type of pay-per-view options at that point in my life, and I was watching those tapes on my VHS, and I was getting to see the Rock and Roll Express in the midnights and getting to see the greatness of the Russians at the time.
My son, my oldest son, Jonathan, and my next oldest, Brad, they just went through a lot of stuff and found some old VHS tapes back when I was for Leroy McGurk, because I saved all that. You know, I had a VCR. Look here, and the first VCRs that came out, they were big as this table here.
And expensive, too.
Yeah, I mean, this big, huge. But we got that. They even found an episode I've been looking for a long time. I was on one of the shows with Lyle Zato, Learning the Ropes, and I've been looking for a copy of that. But they got to write it off on a VHS or what? I mean, the
CD, DVD.
All right, here we go.
DVD. Here we go.
Keep Ricky Morton in the put. But then I need to get some copies of it, man. If anybody's out there, man, please let me know. I'd like to have a copy of that, a real good copy. I don't know how good that'll be, but I got some stuff of Jim Ross when he was just breaking into business. Me and Jim Ross doing an interview. Boy, was I horrible. I was horrible. God, and I still am horrible. But then I learned how to get the point across that what I was talking about. But I was so nervous, man. You got that red light flashing in your light and in your eyes, and you're on there. It's great stuff. Can't wait to get that out and get it out to the people to see, too.
Very cool. Well, if you have any questions for Ricky Morton or myself, you can tweet them to us at Scotty is on, SCOTTY is on, or Facebook at Scotty on the Radio. You can find Ricky Morton on Twitter at Real Ricky Morton and Facebook at School of Morton. Also, while we're talking about technology and such, Ricky, I sent a message. I've been talking to Conrad Thompson. Conrad, you know Conrad. He co-hosts Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. And What Happened When with Tony Schiavone. And good guys, all of them. And they love the business. Well, I don't think Tony Schiavone does, but that's a whole nother
episode.
That's a whole other day.
Conrad's a great guy. He's God, man. He invited us down to his house, Robert and I, and that's back when Kerry James was little. And Kerry, man, he lives in a beautiful home on the side of a mountain down in Chattanooga area. Unbelievable. Bruce Pritchard, a great mind for the business, a great friend of mine too. They and people that I have a lot of people that tell me they listen to their podcast, and I do too, and it's a great show. I mean, man, they're out there, buddy, and I love it. They're entertainment on the podcast.
Yes,
so, and it's very good. But we used to go. Where was you going to?
Well,
with Tony Schiavone?
First of all, I was just going to say this past episode of Bruce Pritchard and Conrad, we're talking about Doink the Clown. That was the whole focus of the entire 3-hour show, Doink the Clown. So I enjoyed that one, and I was in touch with Dave Silva, who does their beautiful graphics to promote their podcast and such. And he's provided us with a beautiful School of Morton graphic. You can see it right now on Twitter and Facebook.
You told me you painted that. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a gimmick.
Dave, that was awesome, man. Thank you very much, and thank you guys for helping us promote our podcast. Man, don't think we don't appreciate it, and that's what friends are for. And that's what business is about, man. Thank you guys very much.
Absolutely. Bruce Pritchard and Conrad both helping spread the word about the School of Morton podcast. Just last week, in case you missed it, Ricky Morton and I were one-on-one with Kevin Sullivan. And week before that, we talked with J.J. Dillon. We had a member of the Bullet Club, Chase Owens, on the week before that. And going to be having a lot of guests in the future, Ricky.
Oh, yes, we are. This is... got our podcast going. I'm going to bring on some weird ones, too. I like the ones that really get on here, put that stick in that pot and really stir it. That's what I like.
A nice brew.
And we get it on. We try to, we try to make our podcast a family podcast, but we got a lot of editing to do. But I know, I'm just...
It's hard to be family friendly in 2017.
Yes,
I mean,
it is,
come
man.
on. The kid's coming up cussing me out. I mean, Junior, what are you doing, boy?
This Saturday, I'm going to be down in Georgia.
Nahunta, Georgia. Big time wrestling.
Gosh, man, it's just 2 days away. Get a chance, y'all come out and see us. Big time wrestling's coming out there, man, and great show. You get your tickets, man. I think they're close to being sold out. So, guys, y'all come on out. Robert and I and everybody else that's on the card will be there early signing autographs, so come and see us.
That is Saturday, November 4th. So, this Saturday in Georgia with Big Time Wrestling. Now, before we get into the purpose of today's show, and what we're going to be focusing on is 1998 in the World Wrestling Federation when Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express, went there to do business. But before we get there, and before we talk about Mike Tyson and Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and others that were involved with WrestleMania that year in 1998, I want to talk a little bit about 2017. School of Morton has action coming up this Sunday, November 5th, Thanksgiving Turmoil, School of Morton, 2085 Chuckey Highway in Chuckey, Tennessee at 5 p.m. Then your students are on the road to Knoxville, Tennessee. And they're going to be at Lost and Found Records at 3710 North Broadway in Knoxville, Saturday, November 11th at 3:30 p.m. bell time. So right in the middle of the afternoon. That's a good time. I like that time slot.
Well, yes, it is. And if you hadn't had a chance to check out our shows, these are all our guys that train. And, and I can't make a promise that I'll make you a WWE superstar. But one thing I can promise you is to make you a better wrestler. This is what we do down here at the School of Morton. We train to make you better, that when the people pay to see you, you could give them their money's worth. You could impress your girlfriend or whatever you want to do. We train hard, and when the School of Morton, the guys that come out, they put 100% into it every time they walk through the doors, and you could tell it when you go to our shows. You know what the experienced guys are and the ones that are not experienced, because we put on a good show. And hope everybody comes out and sees it and enjoy the show.
And additional opportunities Sunday, November 12th in Chuckey, Tennessee at 5 p.m. And then there's a Christmas edition, Christmas Star Wars, in fact, Monday, December 25th, Johnson City, Tennessee, Johnson City Community Theater, 600 East Maple Street. In action that evening, Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express versus Elliot Russell. Now, where's Elliot been? What's he up to, Ricky?
He just got back from Japan. He had him a great tour over there, and he came back, hot rod, and, he beat me for the School of Morton belt, so I'm going to try to get my belt back. Elliot's a great wrestler. He's another one you see, and then I tell the guys, man, you got to put 100% in to get it. He does that. They're out on the road, right place at the right time. And he's one of them guys that you never know. You might see him at the School of Morton Christmas night at the show there in Johnson City. Then the next Monday night, you might see him on Monday Night Raw. Who knows? This is what our business is about.
Details about upcoming action, check it out, Facebook at School of Morton. Okay, Ricky Morton, 1998. What are you and Robert Gibson up to before the telephone rings from WWF/WWE as we know it now?
Well, Scotty, and this is what our podcast is about, is to tell the truth. At that time, Smoky Mountain Wrestling had closed down. Jimmy Cornette had went to WWF with the Heavenly Bodies. I think their run was over. And I think this is the part of the time they come in. Robert and I, Barry Windham, did the NWA thing.
While you and Robert are out working the independents, and
yes,
the WWF wanted to do the NWA invasion angle, where you went in and in early 98, you started wrestling against the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, and the Disciples of the Apocalypse. Just curious, who calls you at that point? How do they find you? Who reaches out? Who gets you booked? How does that come about?
Well, this is what we got to come down to and to get. See, in our business, we take care of each other. Like I said, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, it's closed down. Robert and I work in the independent circuit. And to tell you the truth, it was Jimmy Cornette that called us. Jimmy knew that we was out here. Jimmy knew we needed a job. And then we went to it's WWF at the time, which is a great thing, but you got to understand, man, when you got so much talent and you got all this going on, sometimes you get lost in the shuffle. Don't get me wrong, we got paid every night. We got to go overseas. We got to go for WWE. And WWF, they do take care of you. So they gave us a little contract, not like the big money contract. This wasn't nothing that was on papers, but they paid us so much. They told us they pay us so much a week and so much a show. And I got to hand that to Jimmy. Jimmy knew we was looking for a job, and Jimmy got us a job. That was his way of saying thank you for the Smoky Mountain days and thank you for the days. Bill Watts, NWA days, he was just one of the boys taking care of us.
Now, along this period here, we're talking early 1998. WWF is about to build up to WrestleMania 14, and on the January 19th, 1998 episode of Monday Night Raw, thousands of households were able, some were watching Monday Nitro, others were watching the WWF, and that is when they were able to see the presence of Mike Tyson in that famous footage where he was in that pull-apart scuffle with Stone Cold Steve Austin in the final minutes on Raw that night. That was a massive start to one of the biggest WrestleManias in history. So with that happening and so much talent at this time on the roster, and Jim Cornette has called, and Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson are headed to be a part of the WWF, a lot of matches are about to happen on the road to WrestleMania. So I wanted to start a little bit early in the year and look at some of the talent that you guys were up against. But first I want to know, how were you treated in 1998 by the agents, by the producers? Different names, right? Different titles. So who was there back then? Who was running the stuff backstage?
The guy that Jimmy Cornette don't like.
Which one? Oh, I bet I know which one you know. Vince Russo.
Yeah, Vince Russo was running it back there in the back. And I'm sorry, names, because you asked me this question, names running against each other. It was Vince Russo running it. But another thing, when WrestleMania come up, I want to say this too, right here, before I forget it. It was held at the Boston Gardens, the brand new Boston Gardens. That was the first event ever held in the new Gardens But the last event that was held in the old gardens was WWF too, and we were on that show wrestling that night. And after that night, they tore the building down right there in the same spot, and they built the brand new one. But there was two different eras because we was wrestling the heavily bodies off of Smoky Mountain Wrestling when they tore the old one down, and then the new one we were back up in there with the doing the runs. The NWA thing with we did a lot with, I think, the Billy Gunn, Bart Gunn.
Absolutely.
And Headbangers, they were around there. We had a couple matches with the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom. But that was, that they had been out for a while, too, and just came back. And we did the Royal Rumble, I think, at WrestleMania.
Yes, the big Battle Royal at WrestleMania that year, and definitely going to get to that. I was wanting to know, Hawk and Animal, Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, you were around each other so much in the 80s. How had things changed by 1998 when you all had been working in different places and then came back together and faced each other in the WWF?
Well, yeah, you got to understand it's a whole different ball game. When they were around us in NWA, me and Robert were the top babyface tag team, and they knew that. A lot of things that people could say that Mike and Joe were really stiff and really this and that, but they were business guys. They worked with Robert and I, and we'd tear the houses down. But you see, now we're back in a different era. Robert and I didn't have the position that we did in NWA. We were just there. And when we worked with the Road Warriors, it was our job to get them over, and I was glad to do that. Like you said, I was saying earlier, Scotty, really we were lost in the shuffle. It was so much going on.
Now, as a part of the action in 1998 with WWE, you were facing some opponents that I saw you with, and many others did too, during your time in Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain Wrestling, like Skull and 8-Ball. That would be Ronadon Harris.
Yes, sir. Let me tell you, Ronadon Harris, what a great run that we had with these guys in Smoky Mountain. See, a whole different thing. This is how you can change your gimmick, if that's the way you want to say it, or change who you are in business. Ronadon Harris, when they were in Smoky Mountain, they had the long hair. Both of these guys, 6'8", 6'9", big, huge guys. And that's in the Smoky Mountain area, it was more like the David and Goliath, where the baby faces chased the heels. We had such great matches with them guys. And then they went to WWF, and that's where they shaved their heads. 8-Ball and Skull, and then change was Brian Lee. Brian Lee, involved. Hit Brian Lee and Candido had a great run together in the Smoky Mountain area. But when they came up, it was great, But you had to change everything. When we wrestled the Harris brothers in the WWE, everything was changed. We go over some matches, they go over in some matches, but we were just in the middle of the cards. We wasn't the top tag teams. It was fun being around. Dude, when you're in a territory such as WWF, and you got Mike Tyson, and you got Steve Austin in the back, and The Rock, and gosh, this is before The Rock. The Rock was right on the edge of moving in behind Steve Austin to take his place, and wow, man, was it exciting. You talking about a lot going on in the back. And that's when you had the old-timers, which I guess I'm an old-timer now, but, in the back, you had a lot of the old guys running everything. At that time, you got a draw every night. I don't know if you know what I mean by that. They have one guy that would come and see you and give you cash. Well, this is before you had the money on the road, because a lot of guys didn't have credit cards. They didn't have a lot of... It was a long time ago, man. It's, the technology today, especially me, I still don't know how to text. But
even 1998, we're looking at nearly and about 20 years ago here. So was Brooklyn Brawler, Pat Patterson, were they in the mix? Bruce Pritchard, who was in the mix with you guys backstage at this point?
Bruce Pritchard. And the Brawler, he was part of the, back there. And Pat Patterson's over everything. Pat's great. Gosh, I think he's the one that got The Rock where he was at today, talking to him, every day working with him. And that's the way it is at WWE. I think it's Pat Patterson, then Vince. I don't know how it is now. I know it was those days. It was.
And Ricky Morton, a lot of people really today I think don't realize that when you were in the WWF in 1998 and you and Robert were wrestling against the likes of Barry Windham, spending some time there, Jim Cornette and his new Heavenly Bodies, and the Road Warriors, and those memories, some people do realize and clearly know and have seen scaffold matches and things from the 1980s and a lot of what happened then. But they don't know, in 1998, you were celebrating about 20 years in the wrestling business at that point.
Yes, I was. You was talking about Barry Windham. That's when Barry Windham and Bradshaw were partners at the time. I think he went as a different name then. Brother, he's like wrestling Stan Hansen. He'd hit you with that lariat. Look, you're like one of them rockin' sock'em robots, especially when you're on TV. That's where you got to get over at. And gosh, man, them guys were big out there throwing me and Robert around. But man, we had a great time. And and then at the part there too, we did the NWA thing when Robert and I and Barry Windham were together. I think Jeff Jarrett was a part of that came in on that little run we had there. But man, we had a great time.
Before we go down memory lane even further, I just want to say, a lot of these feuds, these mid-card type feuds you guys were in 98 with a lot of these different teams, some of which you'd worked with in the past, some you hadn't. You had that opportunity to work with them, which led to the Tag Team Battle Royal for the number one contenders to the WWF Tag Team Championship. You were talking about that. WrestleMania 14, Fleet Center in Boston, first show in the venue after they had built the new building. And, of course, everybody put the Legion of Doom over that night. And I just thought it was interesting. They were accompanied to the ring by Sonny, the one and only Tammy Sitch.
At that time, that's when the Road Warriors had left and came back with a new thing. They changed their gimmick just a little bit. That's why they brought Sonny out with them. Just something that was different and something that was new. I can't recall if it even got over or not. I don't know the part because, the people were used to seeing Paul Ellering talking for them. And Sonny, everybody has a story about Sonny. Well, she was a big part of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, too. That's where she really got over. I always got along with her when it come to the girl wrestlers. I know that her and Chris Candido, they were seeing each other, but, when you get into the personal life, I didn't involve. We just drew money with them, and that's all I can really say. That's all I want to say. Scotty, get that shovel and throw that dirt. Just on
burying the dirt.
I know everybody, but you know what? A lot of people don't understand either, too, is when Smoky Mountain Wrestling started going up to WWF, that's when the Heavenly Bodies, was having a feud with the Heavenly Bodies. And this is great because we went on the WWE show and we lost the titles to Jimmy Del Rey and Tom Pritchard. But it reflected to the Smoky Mountain era because, God, at that time, Smoky Mountain was so hot that when we worked it together, we had a loser leave town match. And I did the interview on TV. I don't know if people were saying it or not, but everybody thought that Robert and I were going to lose. But the whole thing is for the Heavenly Bodies to go to WWF. And if you get a chance, guys, go back and look this up. It's the match, Loser Leave Town, Bluegrass Brawl, easy for you to say, that happened in Pikeville, Kentucky, with the greatest finishes ever in a match. Jimmy Cornette come up with this finish. The people knew that we were losing and we were going to WWF, but it was the opposite. The Heavenly Bodies were going there. And God, man, when we beat them, I've been in a lot of buildings where you got a lot of big pops. But, man, what a pop. I mean, it actually blew the roof off the building. It's great. It's just to see the people, just the 1, 2, 3, and to see them just jump up out there. May get a chance. Check that out, guys. Big part of history in our wrestling business.
I want to hit on a few more matches from WrestleMania 14 here because you worked with so many of these people in so many different capacities. Some people, along the years, have compared your work to that of Owen Hart and a bit of the style. Now, one of the matches that night was Triple H defeating Owen Hart for the WWF European Championship. And I was just wondering, any thoughts on why was the European Championship even in existence at that point? Were they trying to get in over there, get more viewers? Do you think that had anything to do with TV?
We were going over there. even I went with WWF over there. Robert and I did. We wrestled Bart and Billy Gunn at the time. So it's not trying, they were going in over there, so they had to have a European champion, something for them to see. I think later on, one of the guys from over there won the belt. I don't know. I think it's when Steve Regal and them started coming into the play. But you had to have a belt once you went over there.
Help give more purpose to the entire feud.
Purpose of being there, yes.
Okay. And another one I wanted to get your view on here. There was a dumpster match for the Tag Team Championship. Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, Terry Funk.
Yes, I was there.
And they defeated the New Age Outlaws, Billy Gunn and Road Dogg, one of those Armstrong boys, who also did time in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And what a family. My goodness.
Well, man, gosh, you got to understand. Brad Armstrong was one of my best friends ever in the business. Matter of fact, my son, Brad, I named after Brad Armstrong, me and Brad were real close in the business together, but the whole Armstrong family were great. The first match I ever seen Brian have, his first match, he told me to watch it and I come back, and he asked me, he said, how's my eye? I said, dude, it was perfect. It looked like you've been wrestling for 20 years coming from that family. But I remember, man, that the dumpster match, because Terry Funk and Cactus Jack was in the dumpster when they rode him off the stage. Mm-hmm. Wow. Until I seen what was happening. But it was cool, though, man. I never seen nothing like that before, taking a bump inside of a dumpster.
My eye.
Okay.
So, with that, it's available right now on WWE Network to go back and take a look at that. Also on YouTube, I'm sure. But at any rate, the talent in that ring at that time and the years of experience, and even as of 98, with Road Dogg and Billy Gunn versus Mick Foley, which was going by Cactus Jack still at that moment, and Chainsaw Charlie, Terry Funk. What a mixture of people. Larger than life is a phrase I like to think about a lot.
Yeah, but the product was so good. Now you can understand how come WWE's where it's at today. You had such great talent. You had something for everybody to see. Vince, and I tell people this all the time. It's a $1 billion business. Vince McMahon, if he sold combs door to door, it'd still be a $1 billion business. Smart man. Never stops thinking. You know what I'm saying? He's never stops thinking about the business. Never stops thinking about what he's doing, and everybody else that's there that was working in the office. Everybody was working together then, and it's even like today. The guys that's in the office, every one of them deserve their job. I've been around and seen the things. I'm thinking, gosh, man, now I understand a lot more by just hanging around what our business has turned into. The big part of the business. I'm still in the independent circuit, and I love it, and I love what I do. But I get a chance to go every now and then to be on some of the big shows and see how they run things, and it helps me a lot more. Helps me a lot with my school, learning, seeing some of the things they do that I can bring back to my school to help my boys with.
And as far as those big WWE shows go, Starrcade is returning for the first time in years. Starrcade's going to be presented by WWE in Greensboro, North Carolina, coming up. And I understand Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express, are indeed going to be with WWE that night. Anything else you can tell us yet?
Well, the only thing I can tell you is these clowns, a long time I'm talking about WWE, I'm talking about back in the WCW days when these idiots took over WCW. And I'm just going to say it the way the pizza guy out from St. Louis or Kansas City or wherever he was from, Bill Hurd, Jim Hurd or somebody. They took Starrcade away from Greensboro. Now, the Starrcade was home. Greensboro was the home of the Starrcade. And they took it away. And now WWE is bringing it back. And, that was one of the big deals. Dusty's the one that invented that, but we was a big part of that. We were there. And God, man, it not only surprised the wrestling world, it surprised me that they're having us there that night. Man, I can't wait. I can't wait to go back. And, I was just in Raleigh, Durham not long ago, and gosh, couldn't believe some of the people that I hadn't seen in 30 years, but I remembered some of the fans. And they brought old pictures back, and I hope a lot of people do this. It's a big part of our life, dude.
Great opportunity to see the Rock and Roll Express WWE Starrcade Saturday, November 25th in Greensboro, North Carolina. Earlier that day, WrestleCade, which of course is a 3-day event, WrestleCade.com. Check out all their info online. And you are going to be there with Robert Gibson, too.
Robert and I are there every year. We have been. So we're going to be there again this year, and we're looking forward to that. Every year event. They have a great, and I put them over too, they'll be having wrestling there too. Robert and I will be there during the day signing autographs and headed to Greensboro, but still that night they have a show going on there and all the fans there. You enjoy yourself. Tracy Meyer does a great job of putting that show together over there.
Now, I want to roll back here for a couple moments here on WrestleMania 14 in 1998. Now, we were talking about some of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling talent that had been through Smoky Mountain that made it to WWE. One of those people, Glenn Jacobs, Unabomb, went on to be Kane. Well, is one of the biggest WrestleManias ever, because part of the reason for that is being able to see The Undertaker versus Kane with Paul Bearer, and this was a time when we hadn't had an opportunity to see that yet. So it was their big first battle. How's crowd reaction in 1998, Attitude Era in the WWE?
That's when The Undertaker was really started. They were experimenting with the dead man. Glenn Jacobs, the fire, the burn, and
so with the crowd around the world on pay-per-view, seeing WrestleMania 14, the venue's packed, Attitude Era underway, noise, pops, yes, you better believe it. Well, the match, The Undertaker defeated Kane with Paul Bearer.
Yeah, before we get into that, though, man, I just want to let you know that all three of these guys, Paul Bearer, Percy Pringle, before they painted his face, before this great manager, he managed in Memphis, Tennessee, down in Mobile, Florida, the areas. I worked with him a lot. Now, you got to understand, here's Glenn Jacobs that was the Unabomber in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. We actually worked with and helped him get to WWE at Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And then there was The Undertaker, Mean Mark Calloway. I was booking at the time in Memphis. Me and Dutch Mantell were. And we brought Mean Mark Calloway from the Federal Pen to wrestle Jerry the King Lawler. What a great run they had. Big boy. And this, to me, it's not the part about the crowd pops, and I'm one of the boys, but to me, it's about looking at all three of these guys that I watched grow in the business. That's something that's hard to really explain. That you see Glenn Jacobs in there, that was the Unabomber. Mean Mark Calloway, that come from Texas, and then Percy Pringle, that where they started their careers off and totally changed everything to be at WrestleMania, where it's $1 million gate, more than $1 million gate. You understand what I'm saying? That's the part that I look at. It's not the part about that match, and it's not the part about the fans. It's the part about, I've seen all this change. I've seen all this transaction. These guys go from this to this to that. And that's what our business is about. That's fulfilling every dream that you ever wanted in our business, that you never give up. You never stop. You never stop learning. And that's the part I look at, Scotty.
For being able to have seen Percy Pringle, Paul Bearer, he wrestled.
And he was I wrestled him before. I wrestled him 100 times. He was down in the Memphis territory. That's just...
Even sporting blonde hair a good part of the time, wasn't he, back in the day?
Oh, yes. Everybody had blonde hair.
But not everybody had a mullet.
No.
Just to be clear.
And still got it.
Yes, you do. Woo! Women still looking at you. Yeah. Now, okay, as far as Undertaker goes, his longevity, how do you think he's been able to consistently work? And I know he slacked off, or I shouldn't say slacked off, but went to a lesser schedule. But having known him in WCW, WWE, and even way before that, could you see the possibility in this man in the early days? Were you a believer in him when you and Dutch Mantell were booking?
If I didn't believe in him, he wouldn't have been main event. Mark was a special guy, and Glenn is too. Not only these guys, as big guys, but they're great athletes. And Mark is smart about the business. He knew what he had when he became the Undertaker. Not only him, but Vince and them all knew, and they taught him there. See, you never start learning a business. He knew how to protect the Undertaker, buddy, and he did. The longevity is they knew how to keep it alive. Even though he was the dead man, they knew how to keep him alive. They worked together. It's a process that didn't take, it wasn't done overnight. It was great the first night, but every time it got better, and it got better, and it got better. Then when he had his big run, ever WrestleMania, undefeated for the long time. And I think they kind of regret, I would, ever beating him.
I was shocked that they ended the streak.
Because he did come back. But, but this business, they're billionaires and I'm not, so they know something I don't.
Well, I want to share one more Percy Pringle memory, Paul Bearer. Heard him tell this story once, Ricky. So, like me, Paul Bearer was a big man. He was very rotund, liked to eat, just how it was. But he told this story. It cracks me up still. He said every single time in catering that he got a big old piece of chocolate cake covered in icing. I'm talking a massive piece of cake. Vince McMahon would walk by and talk to him, oh, you going to eat that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what you really need, big boy,
You know what? I seen him walk by Jimmy Cornette, and he grabbed Jimmy Cornette's arm. He goes, "Oh, my God, not one bit of athletic ability. What are you doing?" He said, "I just felt jello on his arm." And now I'm standing there and I'm dying. Now I don't know what to say.
It's classic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, goodness. I can just see that now. Okay. Also, this night, WrestleMania 14, the action never stops. Main event time. Can you compare to me the importance, or just give me an example or what have you, of the importance of Mike Tyson being in WWE, serving as referee in the main event where you have Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on the champion, Shawn Michaels?
What I really recall is because they kept everybody away, is when I was walking down the hall in the back and I heard somebody say, "Hey, Ricky Morton," and I turn around, it's Mike Tyson. And that's pretty cool. As the match went by, I don't have any comment on it because I watched everything. I know everything where it's going is to better our business. Shawn Michaels, God, man, I remember Shawn was a kid that showed up at Louisiana for Bill Watts out of San Antonio, Texas. Just a young 18-year-old baby face. But to look to him to come to be the main event against Steve Austin with Mike Tyson. And at the end where Mike Tyson
hopped right in there and didn't hold back.
Yes, it was great.
I want to go ahead and let you know that next week's episode, we're going to be interviewing the Universal Heartthrob, the one and only Austin Idol. And he's going to be taking your questions. So here's what I'd like you to do. Send your questions via Twitter at @RealRickyMorton and to myself at Scotty is on, SCOTTY is on. Use the hashtag Express Yourself. Send us your questions for Austin Idol, also for Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, and we'll do our best to get as many of those answered and included in next week's episode as possible. Also, encourage you to subscribe to this podcast so you can automatically receive the newest episodes. Each episode is brand new on Thursdays. In the archives, you'll find our conversation with J.J. Dillon, our conversation with Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan, Chase Owens of the Bullet Club. One of Ricky Morton's children, Kerry Morton, is training to be a professional wrestler. You'll hear from him in a past episode as well. And your suggestions for future guests are welcome too. So tweet us also on Facebook at Scotty on the Radio and at The Babyface Ricky Morton, also at School of Morton. Thanks for listening. So that 1998 in WrestleMania 14 in WWE was a big year, big business, record numbers for the company. But a really neat time for the Rock and Roll Express to be there. Now, I want to roll back in time. Maybe even before you met Robert Gibson. Where does that take us?
I was just like anybody else, that dream of becoming a big star in professional wrestling. And, gosh, I never forget My first territory was for Nick Goulas, and it was out of Nashville. And if anybody never heard of Nick Goulas and George Goulas, I thought that everybody that was in this business later on, I wish they would have known Nick and George, because, that was his son. And George was the most horrible wrestler I've ever encountered in this business, to be on top, which his daddy owned the territory. And if he got mad at you, he'd call his daddy and he'd point that finger, "Da said for you to go down. Da said for you to go down." And it was just crazy stuff that you could never imagine, but Nick owned the territory. I remember, bless Harley Race's heart, man. It was Harley. Harley come in to wrestle him on the show, and it really, he had to carry him. It was going to go an hour at Broadway, I think, but I think Harley finally beat him in like 15 minutes, because, it just, even though it was that, you just couldn't carry a guy that horrible to be in our business. But where I'm getting to is every Saturday morning we did live TV in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and then at night you had that, which would be live on TV. And this is what was great about our business at the time, is because Vince didn't have the control of the TVs then. You had small territories. And even what WWF wasn't even heard of. I mean, it was up north. It's just small territories that you went to. And to bring memories and time back. And that's back when Randy Savage was a kid, and the Prophet, which was his dad, and then Lanny Poffo was around. The Disco Kid was around. God, I can't forget all these guys' names, but we did live TV right there. Tojo Yamamoto, Lynn Rossi, some of the great legends in the matches in the history of our business. But when you shoot the angles and go to TV that night, which I wasn't a part of it, but I learned watching and seeing, and it's like when you go to a football game and you smell the popcorn. It reminds you of
Takes
something.
you right back.
Back when you played, it's the same way with me. In the old building, the old auditorium down there, and it's still there. Chattanooga was a great, great town. You had your little things, and you run Nashville every Wednesday night. But to go back, and, I remember the young guys in the business, Tommy Higgy, which is out of Dixon, Tennessee. He was one of the great guys around there. But Bobby Eaton, and at that time, Bobby Eaton was a tag team partner. Orville Hutto is a guy named Orville Hutto, and they were a babyface tag team boy, and they were great. But Bobby Eaton was same thing, like me. We didn't weigh 125 pounds soaking wet. And to watch how the guys got so much heat, the chemistry of our business. And like you said, that's when Randy Savage was just, I think he just come out of playing minor league baseball. But he's from a wrestling family, and the women wrestlers like Cora Combs and Sarah Lee, Joyce Grable, just memories like that. When you ask me and I go back, wow, man, it's part of your life you can't replace. My God, it kind of breaks your heart, really, Scotty.
And the ladies at that time in the business, how did they behave? How did they treat what was sacred at that time?
They treated the business just like anybody else did. But you got to understand, the ladies, they're tough. You didn't mess with them girls, they beat your butt. But the business was different. It like for Nick now, you do a spot show, and you see, as we run our School of Morton shows, the matches that you have. But you see, and Nick would pay you. He wouldn't pay you nothing. The boy, it ain't what you make, it's what you save. Yeah, but but that is funny. But here, this will be one of the shows, like one of you call it a spot show. It's one of your, not your major towns, but a little city you go into. The first match, it'll be me against a heel, and then the second match would be Bobby Eaton against another heel. Okay, then the girls would wrestle, say Sylvia Hackney or Cora Combs or Sarah Lee. They would wrestle. All right, and that was your third match. And then the main event would be me and Bobby against the two heels. We wrestled in single matches, a tag match.
Well, so let's not pay too many people to work here.
Well, no, you didn't then. And, the tickets, ringside seats wasn't $3, I guess. Mm-hmm. And, general admission was $1. The popcorn be salted so bad that you drink 10 Cokes.
Strategy.
That was our business. And going around, I might have told you, my dad was a promoter years ago, too, and he'd run free shows. But he'd have a big truck, and it cost $0.25 to sit down. with full of chairs, you know. And I'll be popping popcorn. Pop that, put salt out on that popcorn, boy. Gotta sell them Cokes. You know, come back by 'em. But that's the way we made a living. But the workers, our business was sacred, man. You didn't talk. Don Fargo. Gosh, you talking about somebody crazier than a horse with no neck.
I've heard that.
I mean, this guy, you could not believe it. You know, maybe later on, after we get used to it, some of the stories about him, I don't know, because I just mentioned his name, is how to tell these stories without getting kicked off the air.
Is it safe to say that I've heard some things, okay, I'm not going to get too specific about it, but is it safe to say Don Fargo was very edgy and maybe experimental outside of the business?
Well,
I mean, I'm not trying to get you in a trap here.
I don't.
I've heard some
things.
No,
I just know it's just like this right here. He was one of the first guys I ever seen with this bodybuilder body look. He was, but see, he would change. I would see him like he had different gimmicks too. When I seen him as a Hell's Angel, God, he weighed 400 pounds.
Wow. And
then you'll see him back as Don Fargo in Mobile, and he'd be like he's chiseled out of a rock. And I don't know how he done that.
Mm-hmm.
This is the days before the cosmetic looks and, you know,
all the other help.
I mean, guy just trained, but he's so different. But, you know, I don't know if it's safe to say. I just know he was different and crazy. I know that he would. He liked to drink, and he'd come in and get his beer, take his beer out, and you talk about being crazy now. Don and Jackie, you know, they're driving. They have like 3 or 4 people in the car, so and they did crazy stuff, and they're driving. So they already arranged this, and they had a blank pistol gun, So they picked up this guy hitchhiking, and he sticks him in the middle, in the back, because they got 4 guys in the car, and Jackie's up front arguing with Don, and Don. You know, the guy in the middle don't know who they are. You know what I'm saying? He's just a guy, homeless guy, I guess. I don't know. Hitchhiking to somewhere. They're arguing back and forth. So Jackie pulls a gun out and shoots him in the back seat. You know, with a blank gun. Bam! Shoots him. Bam! Boom! Falls over dead in the back. So the guys in the middle, they're going, pointing that gun at us. Both of you tell anybody we'll kill you. I think we ought to kill you now. No, I ain't going to tell nobody. I ain't going to tell nobody. I think, no, you're going to tell on him about that. So they let him out on the road. Boom. You know, they didn't really kill him. So they get up, they go to the bar. Well, this guy, first thing he did is call police. And the police come in, boy, and he's telling them, this big boy, he said he shot and he killed him. Blah, blah, blah. And he goes, there's their car right there. They went in that bar. The police did everything. There's Don and Jackie both sitting there drinking beer at the damn. I think they pulled a rib on that guy. And then I seen them one time. They had another hitchhiker. The guy ain't eat. I know he ain't eaten a week. So they go in the restaurant to eat. Jackie and Don get up. They told that guy, we're going to pay for your food. He said, you go ahead and finish your meal, and I'll tell these people that we'll pay for your meal and be all right. So they get up to the counter and they tell the guy, see that guy back there? Said, yeah, he's paying for our food. And he's like, we'll see you later, fella. Thank you. And they walk out. And that guy had to pay the food. But I think my daddy wound up paying for it because me and my daddy worked this table. Oh, they come back and this guy goes, oh, they supposed to get my
wow. The side of the Fargos that I never saw.
No, man, that's just stories. Jackie Pfeffer. Do you remember Jackie Pfeffer? Do you know who I'm talking about? He's the one that discovered him. He was their manager in New York. I think before Vince's dad owned it, I believe. This is, they were one of the first blonde tag teams to go. And back then you had 2 out of 3 falls, and they would come back. It was a big deal because after you'd come back, and they'd change tights, different colors. And that was a big deal for them back then. That's how our business has changed from going from 2 out of 3 fall matches and changing your tights. And
wow.
And, another thing back in those days, they had the wrestling bear. God, I hated wrestling the bear. I mean, and I was very scared of the bear. I'm telling you, he'd just have it in the ring. He'd be in a battle royal.
Now we're talking a real bear here.
Yes, yeah. I'm talking a real bear.
We're not talking about a costume.
You know what?
I've seen footage of this stuff,
and
but I've never seen.
A lot of people don't understand that. Pat Malone, he was one of those. He was the Green Shuttle, and he trained wrestling bears. And people don't even understand this. We had a bear in our backyard when I was a kid. He's in a cage. He's in a manure wagon and a cage. And this is no kidding.
He's one of the boys.
Yeah, when always in our backyard, because that's where they kept him. And the people would come over, my friends would come over and said, "You got a bear in your backyard." And we did. He ate dog food. And, it's my dad. I'm spread out. And they look at him, people. I said, "No, man, he'll bite your damn hand off." And mean old son of a gun. But the bear, they put a muzzle on this son of a gun. He stunk. And God, I never forget. It was in Beach Bend Park, Bowling Green, Kentucky. And they had the bear, Ginger the bear. And God, and I just frightened of that bear. It's like Bigfoot or something. I don't know. And so here I am, and we all get in the ring in the battle royal, and I'm still here, and Terry Gordy comes up behind me and grabs me and slings me right into that bear. And it's like my face to that bear's chest way down here, and he just put his arms around me and fell on top of me. And I smell bear, and I'm frightened. And I'm scared. And I finally got out from under that bear, and I looked, and Terry Gordy was laughing so hard. All the boys were. There's all out on the floor. And I was cussing. I cussed everybody out. I'm frightened of a bear. What did you do?
What would have happened if they would have rubbed honey on you or something? I'm serious. What would have happened?
They had a muzzle on him. He probably headbutted me to death, I guess. I don't know. It's amazing. And
what kind of state athletic commission allowed a bear in the ring?
Well, but you didn't have athletic commissions then. You didn't. There were no such thing as a wrestling license. You didn't have to get a wrestling license.
That came later.
Nowhere. Well, that's when the money come out. Everything's money now.
You got me thinking. Ricky Morton, I really like money, and I was wondering, I wonder if we could work it out somewhere. Surely. Even in 2017, some state would let it fly under the radar if somebody rustled a bear again. It's been a long time.
Man, I don't know this animal.
Are you saying just don't do it?
No, just don't do it.
Okay, all right.
Because I seen Tracy Smothers beat a bear one time, and I'm serious.
Yes.
Yeah, Tracy beat the bear. You see, the only thing about a bear is it don't have shoulders, so you can't beat it out. It ate the part that he beat the bear so bad he left the ring.
Wow, 10 count out.
Yes. I'm serious. No, man, he got tired of Tracy whooping his ass. I'm not kidding you.
The one and only Tracy Smothers.
And in that background,
awesome.
if you join it, we got Maverick.
Yes.
That's in here. He's helping me with my wrestling history. I guess it's part of Alzheimer's I got. I can't remember nothing. He asked me about stuff. I like to thinking, really, guys. I've been wrestling for 44 years. I couldn't imagine how many matches I have. If Ric Flair's been with 10,000 women, I know I had 10,000 matches.
Woo,
woo. And it's not being mean. I just forget, I forgot a lot. I forgot stuff. If I want to write a book, but then I leave the best part out because I forgot it. And then after I publish it, I remember it. And that's the bad part. Look here. I have to get one of those add-a-pages book.
Yeah, add a page.
Add a chapter.
Call the publisher.
Yeah, that's
Call the publisher and say, "Wait a minute, have you printed that book yet? Because I need to change chapter 12."
Yes, or no, it's just called Add a Chapter.
You'd have the longest book in world history.
Oh, I know it.
That's great. Call it the encyclopedia.
I got you.
We've had a good time this week.
Thank you, buddy. I had a good time too. Tell everybody, man. Thanks. I've been a long week. I've been on the road. Kind of tired this week, but I don't need to make no excuses. I got Scotty to put up with.
It's rough. Somebody's got to do it, though, I tell you.
Get a chance, check us out. Facebook, School of Morton, Ricky Morton, Facebook. I got a bunch of them out there. Twitter's Real Ricky Morton because there's about 100,000 Ricky Mortons. I got to put Real Ricky Morton on mine. But
that's right.
I love this business. Love who I am. I love what I've done and wouldn't change this. Wouldn't change nothing.
She said, Rama, lama, bama, lama, rock and roll is